Well, hello, listener. This episode of Romance Writers Therapy is brought to you by SimplySpellBoundEdits. Kate and I have both worked with Heather at SimplySpellBoundEdits on multiple manuscripts, and we continue to do so. So if you are looking for an editor, we definitely suggest taking a look at Heather. You can reach her at heather@SimplySpellBoundEdits.com. You can check out her website at SimplySpellBoundEdits.com. Or you can find her on Instagram, which is the way I talk to her the most. So, listener, happy editing, happy writing, and we're on with the show.
All right, recording, I'm recording.
I'm recording, you're recording.
All right.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, Marty.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm good. I just sent, and you know this, but listener doesn't know this. I just sent Accidentally Under Your Tree to the editor to do the manuscript evaluation. So I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, because you've been working on this project for like,
oh God, it's almost been 12 months.
Longer. 12 months? You want to say it's been that long?
It's probably been about 9 months though. Like honestly.
And this is a short, I mean,
it's
quote
ended
unquote
up being
short story.
Yeah, exactly. It was supposed to be
longer.
somewhere around 15. And then I was like, you know what? This is at least 30. Right now it's sitting at like 33,500 words. But
so still technically novella territory.
Still technically. I do think it's going to
Double
expand into like a small novel. I think it'll be somewhere around like 50,000 when I'm done. I do think so.
My God.
Even just
I thought
like
you wanted to have this done now.
Well, but like the more I look at it, the more I'm like, there's so much potential here, but we haven't hit it. Does that make sense? Like, like the more I look at it, the more I'm like, the story's not there yet. And like, if I do these other things to it, then the story will be there. I sent my thoughts on to Heather from SpellBoundEdits.
Okay.
Thank you for the sponsorship. I sent the edits off to her and like told her the things I'm thinking of doing. And depending on what she says, yeah, just those thoughts that I have in my head would put me at least at 45,000. So, yeah. And then, you know, in true me form, I got to that fourth act and I was like, Jesus Christ, just get it done. And so I just like wrote it as fast as I possibly could. It's such a mood. And so, like, that was another thing. I was like, hey, I consistently have, like, reviewers being like, hey, the ending was kind of rushed. And me being like, yeah, I get that. So I would really love for that not to be a flag in a reviewer's mind. Yeah, exactly. So even just beefing that up is going to be at least 5,000 words, I would think. Yeah. Anyway, that's where my brain's at. So I think it will end up being, like, 50,000 words is my guess. But it's off. And I don't have to fiddle with it for a little while. I won't touch it until I have like input from her.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I won't touch it. I really am going to let it rest. These are like the places where I'm at instinctually right now, but I would like someone to tell me like, yes, definitely run with that. And then these are my other suggestions so that like when I have her suggestions, I would then look at those new scenes or look at the scenes that are there that I'm thinking need work and make sure those are like those fresh suggestions are like weaved throughout the edits. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I were to like approach it now, I might work in the wrong direction or not work in the complete direction.
The complete direction, like, is my favorite phrase there. Like,
yeah.
You know, the enemy of done is perfect, is perfection, or the enemy. Yeah. Yeah. That kind of thing. Sorry, that didn't sound like a great thought.
I don't,
but like,
well, I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, so like you said, I want things to go in the right direction, and then you correct it, and you go, I want things to go in the complete direction, which
gotcha.
I don't want to say these are two different things, because I kind of want to contest that there is such a thing as the right direction. But
I actually
like, there's
meant
obviously
those to be
wrong
two different
directions.
Concepts. Yes,
no,
there are
yeah,
obviously. Yeah. But like, I meant that to be like, I want to work in the right direction and the complete direction. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
So I didn't mean that as a correction to the right direction.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, I still want to push back on the idea that there is a correct direction. Like, I really struggle with, you know, where to drop the story in, like, where should the story start? And I will often go back and revise. I'm at this point with my werewolf book 2. You know, I keep going. I'm like, is this the best kind of opening chapters for this book? And I did this so much with the first werewolf book too. Remember, I had like chapters 1 and 3 were actually originally one chapter, and chapters 2 and 4 were originally one chapter. And then I split them both in half and kind of like checkered them out. You know?
I do remember that. Yeah. I remember that while you were writing that first one too. And we had a conversation a lot about like, where do you start a story? I think that was actually even like a podcast prompt that we worked with.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I'm sure we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
You know, when we've talked about this previously, I've said my opinion on it is, and this is an opinion I've kind of formulated for my mental health. It's not necessarily an opinion that comes out of like any great research. It's just kind of a start it where you start it, and don't question yourself so much, you know? Trust the process, trust your instincts.
That is exactly like where I have boiled down to as well. Like, just especially with that draft, just start it. And then you can always go back and edit it. Because like with Truth or Dare, I remember I started in a very different spot. And then like it kind of started like slower and quieter. And one of the like pieces of input that I got was start with some high romance, right? And I really like that as a concept. And so it still started as like in theory at the same spot with them meeting, but their meeting took a very different shape.
Right.
And so like my instinct was correct to start where they are face to face, but the actual execution ended up being very different.
Yeah, it's so weird how, like, stories just kind of go where they want a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You have these plans, and then you're like, all right, I've perfectly outlined. Like, this is the problem for, I think, a lot of pantsers with outlining, or with the idea of plotting at all. And this is, like, the thing I run into constantly, that if, you know, I may have planned the whole story out, and I've, like, decided it, and if, like, maybe a month has gone by since I've like really kind of looked at the overall everything, and there's just like a couple elements that aren't fully suited in, like they're not fitting in the way I want them to, or I just don't feel a little bit great about them. Like I'm like, you know, like and then it kind of like throws the whole thing off, and it's like, do I get rid of these elements that are throwing everything off, or do I rewrite the whole thing to suit them?
Well, and then I know that I don't know the right questions to ask until I've like drafted like the first 3 acts. And so it is like by the time I'm writing the 4th act, I know a lot of the problems I have in the first 3 acts, but like I'm just going to write the 4th act and go from there first, right? So like one of the things I'm trying to think of an example. But yeah, like I don't have the knowledge of what questions I need to ask in the first 3 acts and then answer in the 4th act until I'm like there, right? Until like I'm writing that 4th act and I realize like, oh, this needs closure, this needs closure, this needs closure. And it's like, then I realize like, okay, I need to solidify those questions throughout the first 3 acts because they're present in the 4th act. Right. And so like plotting doesn't work for me because I don't have enough context to know like what the book is saying until I've written it.
Yeah. And like, I think we've been having this like conversation for a while of this, like the idea of the cart before the horse.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just going to keep bringing it back to that because it truly feels like that's the way that writing a book goes, is that you're just kind of fucking around until you're like, now it looks like there's some semblance of cohesion.
I agree. And you just, like we've said so many times, you just have to trust the process and just keep on going with it because that's just the way your brain works, right? Like, and everyone's brain works differently. Like, maybe listener is a plotter and they have this incredible, like, outline figured out. They have, like, the bare bones, like, understanding of what each scene does. And then they just have to go and fill in, like, what the scene actually is. And, like, if that's the way your brain works, that sounds so organized. But my brain is not an organized place. My brain is definitely like discovering the puzzle pieces as I'm running through the maze. Does that make sense? Like, it's like I'm like, okay, here's a metaphor. It's like I'm running and I have to build the track as I'm taking the next step. So I'm like throwing down like the stone as I'm taking the next step. And I have to just keep on doing that.
Okay. I feel that. I mean, I think because you've also talked about like needing the excitement for the discovery,
true.
You know, to be kind of what compels you through the story.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There kind of has to be stakes to writing it.
That's the plot.
Otherwise, it's deeply boring. So
yeah. What are the stakes here? I finished the book and it's easy.
Yeah. It's in my brain
it's
already.
Drama free for once.
But like, okay, so we kind of launched right into this conversation. Are there any updates we should give listener about like life and publishing and all that?
By the time this episode is out, I'm sure that like my first werewolf book will be available.
Yes.
So
are you so excited?
Are
you feeling the big feelings?
Nervous? You know, like I'm for so much of the editing process, I felt really good about this book. You know, I didn't have that kind of deep chasm of despair that I had with the Gargoyle book. And I don't know. This book I feel so good about it, which is why I think it's kind of a little bit like emotionally difficult to see like a lukewarm review. Like, I'm not saying like I did the thing I know I'm not supposed to do. I did the thing that I set up all these little rules and little preventive measures. Preventive measures. And because I have these extensions that that turn off the star rating on a book when you open its Goodreads page.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've definitely shared this with you before.
Oh, have you?
I can send it to you again, but I don't think you're going to install it.
I probably won't. No, that's not me. So, but like, you don't need to send it to me again.
No, you're good. I mean, I have no problem sending it to you. I'll try to attach it in the show notes for anyone interested.
Yeah.
You know, that's a me problem when I edit this episode. I opened Goodreads. I read a couple reviews. Because someone sent me their review and I was like, oh, and so I read that one. It was very kind of her. She said a lot of lovely things about my book. And then I went, now I'm going to look at the other ones.
Yeah.
Which is like a mistake every time. Don't do it. You're just going to hurt yourself. Like, you know you're going to do it and then you're...
I have gotten to the point that sometimes when I'm like between releases and I don't have... like maybe I'm having a downtime about like feeling bogged down in my writing or like, you know, all of that. I will actually go to Goodreads and read my like 5 and 4-star reviews.
Yeah?
I'm a weirdo like that. Yeah. Yeah.
See,
I read them and then like it helps me get energy back. Because
the further I am from a book, the more I feel like capable of doing that. Like I could do that for, I think, the Gargoyle book now, but like it's been a year.
I can't.
But I don't know. I could not. Yeah, no, the time really takes the edge off of the nerve.
Yeah. But okay, so you went and read the reviews and like now you have like feelings?
It's not even that I read the reviews. I saw a 3-star review from someone who I knew was very hyped to read the book, and I felt like I had let them down. I was
That's
moped about
hard.
that for like a couple days. I was like, no, I wanted you to like it because you were so excited for it, and then it didn't mesh well. I guess I didn't even read the review. I was like, I can't. That's like my fragile state of mind.
Yeah, no, big mood. I get that, because like that weird review that I shared with you, that wasn't even a review, right? But that was someone who was really reader. Exactly. It was an ARC reader who like I had chatted with a bit while she was reading. And she made this weird comment that like stuck in my brain for the longest time, and I had to share it with Rebecca Conrad and Kate. And so like I definitely and she was somebody that was like really excited and interactive about reading the book, and so to have her like not have that reading experience, like I do understand what you're saying. But like I don't know, I really boiled it down with her that like I'm just not her writer, and like gathered like this was the first interaction I'd had with her. She hadn't been a previous reader of mine. But yeah, I just had to like accept that like she and I just aren't a thing.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's.
Was this a previous reader, or was it just someone who was excited?
I think I don't want to like go too deep into it. I don't want to like,
Yeah, that's fair.
I also think it's very fair for like not every book from an author to be, like I love the Ruby Dixon books, but I'm not a fan of every Ruby Dixon book. Like there's probably like. I think when I read the Ice Planet Barbarians, because they're my comfort books, they just are. I think once I get to like book 4 or 5, I'm kind of like, all right, I'm tapped out,
Well, and we've talked about like even Tessa Dare, like some of her earlier books.
Oh my God, yeah.
they're not the same.
There's this one book of hers, and I'm not bad-mouthing Tessa Dare. I will shout her praises from the rooftops. I actually sent an email to my HR lady. I replied to her because I said, this is the exact plot of the When a Scot Ties the Knot. I want you to know. And she was like, you're insane. She didn't
That's
say
hilarious.
That. She was just like, wow, this is on brand for you.
That's amazing.
Because a plastic lobster went missing in our office.
That's so funny. Gosh like, darn it, that's hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Like the entire like finale of When a Scot Ties the Knot. It's so important.
That's so funny. I think it's fair for not every book to like be a perfect fit for like a reader, even when they enjoy an author. Yeah. It is hard though, like as an author, to have ego. And like
ego is such a insane, like weird little thing you have to deal with all the time. Yeah,
it's true.
Because like I wish we could just take it out of the equation. The idea that everything you write has to be like it feels so self-imposed, the idea that everything you write has to be perfect, but then like the ego that it takes to think everything I write has to be perfect,
The next book has to be better than the one that you just wrote.
Right? Oh my God. I was just telling So one of my friends on Instagram, not on Instagram. We're not friends because of Instagram. We were friends in real life. And
okay.
we just did this in exchange on Instagram. He said something about like, oh yeah, I saw like one of your books was on a podcast. And I was like, you need to tell me, like, you need to send that shit to me if you see that. Like, I'm not seeing this shit. And he goes, oh no, you reposted it. And then I went, oh, right, because I reposted
Cheap Smut.
Cheap Smut recently covered Love Laugh Lich. Love them. Love everything they do. Oh my God. We need to do a
so
crossover
cute. We do
one of these days.
Yeah.
We're getting to it. And so then he's like, oh yeah, and I was like, oh my God, for like, because I'm all wrapped up in this release, so I was like, I thought you were talking about the release, because he said I've been seeing all the marketing you're doing for this book, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just absolutely drowning in this book. And he was like, it's still good that like your other books are getting out there, and I was like, yeah, but they don't count anymore. And he was like,
oh no,
what do you mean? And I was like, no, you're right, but like my brain is like, if I can't top the last thing I did, then I've lost it, then I've peaked, and then I'm done.
But like, there are so many ups and downs. And like, that is something that like really helps me to listen to established authors on like other podcasts say things like, I had this really great breakout book and then the next book didn't do as well. Theodora Taylor talks about this in her book Seven Figure Fiction. This is a very normal trend in publishing, that you'll have one book that really stands out, the tropes hit really well, people like, it has the right time and place, and then the next book won't do as well. And maybe like none of your other books will ever do that well, but it doesn't mean that you haven't established a strong career, right? Like, or like a book will sit for a couple years and then it has a moment. Like, I mean, Ruby Dixon, what a great example, right? Like,
so she's been doing this for decades. Like, she has so many books out there.
But like Ice Planet Barbarians was released and then it started having a huge moment, and like, and then it hit, you know, Washington Post bestseller list. Like, it had been out for a long time at that point. So like, just because this release doesn't do well or anything like that doesn't mean the book doesn't have its moment later. And also, like we've discussed before, like backlist should be promoted. Backlist should have its time and place, like in between in between releases. You should be pushing it, right? Because like that's really what builds, in my mind, that's really what builds a career. So I have a lot less pressure on releases in my mind, because what I really want is to sit on a backlist.
Yeah, I think that's such a healthy way to go about it, you know. And the thing that kind of gets to me is transitional statement. When we were talking, I think we've touched on this a little bit. When you write a book and then you come back to it, maybe you put it down for a little while and then you come back to it and you're like, oh, I'm a very different person than I was when I started writing this. And it feels so clear when I'm reading it, you know? It's all these, it's just going to be in the little details. I feel like oftentimes when you write a book, at least for me, when I write a book, I'm processing a larger emotion that is often very tangled up in a lot of other things. And I think that's kind of like what made writing, or what made my original approach to the Claws and Cubicles books so difficult, was that it felt like, oh, do I have to rehash the same emotions that I was going through for the first book every book?
Okay.
Isn't that going to get tired? Isn't that going to be tiring for the reader, but also very tiring for me to like kind of rehash just the same few beats, the same few thoughts? And there's like only so many ways you can kind of and this is a feeling I get when I read the Ice Planet Barbarians books. Like, I read the first 7 or so, and kind of like round 3 and 4, I'm kind of like, how many ways can you really do fated mates with, like, in this kind of structure and these established rules? And like, when you do create these established rules, it gives you a lot of room to play with every possible interpretation, and that's what's keeping it new and fun. You know, same rules, different take on them.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation.
But you still get that, but this is the same thing we just did, because you are still hitting the same notes in the same order. And where was I coming with this? Where was I going with this?
You were talking about like the emotions that you have wrapped up in writing something and then like reading an old piece of work, and you'll be like, oh.
So when you read something, there's often, I feel like you can look back at like the person you used to be and kind of see the difference between you then and you now. Obviously, not every book has to have this experience.
No, but that's really interesting. Yeah. Like seeing the personal growth through what you've written. And not just like craft growth, but like a better understanding of yourself in that moment because you have hindsight.
Yeah, the hindsight is really big.
Yeah. I don't have a further point to that.
What was the thing we were saying before I launched into that tirade?
I honestly don't know. I can't go back in my brain right now.
That's fine.
Usually I can jog backwards in the conversation, but it's like I did that to get to like where you were like, where was I going with this? And I was able to jog back there, and then I just created a wall that went further back. Like there's nothing there.
Like, so the idea that like the old books don't matter, and the idea that you should like, obviously they matter so much. Having a backlist is so important, but then kind of the idea of constantly marketing them or coming back to them to market, to me is, I know it's different. This is just me talking out of my ass, like looking at it, like, because I have been, you know, I scroll through Instagram and I TikTok and I'm like, ooh, this is a good sound. I could make a cute little marketing for my old books with this sound. And old books, they're like 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just all these nebulous kind of thoughts. They all kind of touch each other. Some of them overlap. I don't have a clear, good answer right now.
I think someone that's a really good example of having a really good balance of how she pushes her backlist is Lauren Connolly. If you check out her Instagram or her TikTok, she does a really good job of like creating these short snippets that like are great hooks into her backlist. And like right now she's pushing her most recent book more than some of the other ones, but you'll still see her bring up these books that have been published for a little while and giving them like a spotlight from time to time. And then she also does a really good job of recycling like the hook over and over. It is definitely something I enjoy watching her do. And it is definitely something I'm like, take notes. Like, just because you said this before, say it again. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time because you're not reaching, you know, the people that follow you. You're going for the people that haven't seen you yet. Or you are reaching the people that follow you, but maybe they forgot and they were like, oh, that's right, I wanted to get that book. And so it's like, it's okay to not have the freshest concept every single time. If you have a hook that works, use the hook again.
Yeah.
I also, and I saw that TikTok you sent me where the girl had like the Venn diagram of like books and then like passion and then passion, right? And so I'm like, well, I guess I could do a better job of like presenting myself as like part of the commodity, right?
Right. No, it was a very good antidote, that TikTok, I think, to the idea, like, when you're marketing on social media, it can feel so much like you're just saying, buy my book every single time, every single post, buy my book. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting to feel like you're constantly asking people for something.
Well, and also, like,
and people get tired of it too.
I can tell when I'm swiping past people who keep on doing that, right? Like, I can tell when I'm like, yep, I'm done now, right? Like, I pushed it during the release and now I'm done, right? Like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so, like, giving a sense of the person, like, a sense of who the author is as well, right? It's like the same thing with your newsletter. Like, you don't want to be pushing, like, sales constantly. You also want to, like, give them a piece of, like, you, an anecdote about you, right?
Well, so just, you know, for a listener who did not get sent the TikTok that I sent you, just want to quickly clarify that she suggested a kind of 3-pronged approach. One of the prongs is buy my book. The second prong is something else you're passionate about. And then the third prong is a third thing you're passionate about.
Yeah. So like if you have a hobby, like if gardening is your hobby, then also feature your gardening, right? And if you have maybe also a hobby, I don't know, underwater basket weaving, like include that as well. And so like you might have a video that displays your garden and then talks about your book in the next video and then talks about the basket weaving in the third video. And so people are getting a rotation and like you're also reaching slightly different audiences.
And it also gives people enough of a breather between the buy my book posts, to constantly. And God, it makes me think of there's this show, Agretzico, which so you know Hello Kitty. I'm starting way too back as usual. You know Hello Kitty. Okay, so the company that makes Hello Kitty is Sanrio, and so they also make all these other cute cartoon characters that also have names and full fleshed out lives. And a lot of the time, they don't. Actually, I'm just gonna scrap this because it's unimportant.
Okay.
This is the storytelling process in action.
I don't know where to start the story.
Literally, if you read any of my books and you go, that wasn't the right place to start a story, know that I already went through this process that you just witnessed here. Like, I thought briefly, like, oh, I could explain the concept that the whole company of Sanrio operates behind. And there's this really great documentary that, talks about all of this called The Toys That Made Us. It was on Netflix, and now it's been absolutely destroyed. Like, ugh. It was such a good series. I don't like what they've done with it in recent seasons.
That happens all the time, because they also had, like, the movies that made us.
Right, and they were the same people who did them. Mm-hmm. And, like, they knew what they were doing, and they had a good thing, and then they made it bad. And, and they had to recycle the prop too much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, like, I think what it is that they changed out some of the people who were on the team, and the people who were bringing the uniqueness of the voice to it. We are so off topic.
Anyway. Do we have a topic to this episode?
I had something I wanted to get to, and then I ADHD'd too far away into the sun.
So Hello Kitty.
Agretzico is this little. She's an office worker. She's a raccoon. Everyone's a little animal in this world. She's an office worker. She hates her job. She goes home and she sings death metal karaoke every day because she's very cute, and then she sings death metal. That's the whole thing.
I love it.
And there's this coworker that she hates who this whole segment is so stupid. I'm just gonna cut all of it.
What?
Oh my God. She has this coworker who she's like, she kind of hates because it's this younger girl who's very energetic and peppy, and she's, scrolling through her social media posts, and she's like, every three posts go the same way. She's like, she posts her drinks, then she posts a selfie, and then she posts her legs at some resort. And it's like, see, drinks, face, legs, drinks, face, legs. And she's like swiping through them at light speed. And people are like, you're too obsessed with her. Like, you need to stop. And she's like, no, she's up to evil.
That's amazing.
But like, we're talking about this three-pronged approach. And I'm like, oh no, it's just that.
That's amazing. Yeah. But like,
absolutely also unrelated in the end.
It is rather unrelated. I was trying to pull it back, but
I know, I'm so sorry.
But like, be like her coworker and just have your three prongs.
Yeah.
So I've been trying to think of like, what are my three prongs? Because I've had like this concept in the past presented to me in like a couple different things, and I'm like, what are my three prongs? Because I won't put my kids on like the internets, right?
Yeah, agreed.
And so like, what do I talk about, right? And I'm like, well, I mean, I do make jokes about myself like singing constantly, and I'm like, okay, so do I like post like me like doing random things like loading the dishwasher while singing? Like, is that something I'm comfortable doing? And like, it's a good question. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean,
but I also don't hate the idea either, because it would be a very low barrier of entry. It is honest to who I am. And like, I do have like a level of capability. So it's like, why wouldn't I? Right? I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird question to ask.
I think, it comes down to how comfortable you are, and like, how often are you actually doing that? Like
singing while doing things? Constant. Cannot stress enough. Okay. Constant.
Like, all right, then maybe it's not gonna feel like a chore to do it and just post about it. If it's something I feel like you want to reach for the things that feel most natural to you.
So then, like, okay, so there's 2 prongs. There's book, there's singing. What is a third prong I have? And like, I'm a fully fledged human with like hobbies and everything. But like, what are they? Right?
I mean, you are a realtor. You're a Midwest mom. You're you have a bunch of things going on, and I'm like, well, you could talk about like funny realtor shit. You send us funny realtor shit all the time. Like, like, look at this fucking house.
I know, but I also like, I'm sending you houses in my market, so I probably shouldn't be talking shit about them. Oh. Yeah.
I mean, but like, we also look, Anna, our friend,
Rebecca.
Our friend Rebecca is constantly sending us Zillow listings in Texas, and she's like, look at this fucking shit. She's a Zillow fiend. I love her.
I do love her.
I don't know. It really takes a...
I know. And so, like, yeah, it's just like, it's an interesting question to ask.
I think you don't have to take it super literally. I think if you, like, of keeping just, like, a rotation of 3 strict things that you have to stick to.
Yeah.
I think if you kind of mentally hold yourself accountable to post 2 things that aren't buy my book. Like, literally just don't have the... And if you make sure to talk about any other 2 things, you know, between those... then you're pacing yourself well enough, you know? Mm-hmm. And if over time you find yourself gravitating towards a couple of the same subjects, I think it's good to...
a natural way to find
observe, you know?
Yeah. That's interesting. I have decided I'm going to do, and it's not going to be a Patreon, it will be a Ream. I'm totally taking us in a different direction. So if you thought there was going to be a natural segue, there is not. I was just like, new track. Like
new track. Honestly, we need it.
Yeah. So I have decided I'm going to do a Ream. I was looking at Patreon as well, which for a listener, if you don't know, Ream is a subscription model service, much like Patreon, but it is focused at authors. A couple reasons why I'm choosing Ream. One of them, the Patreon like page setup is more complicated. Like, I really like how Ream is just so much more straightforward. I already have it like set and ready to go. I just have to start posting, right? And make it live.
All right. Cool.
And yeah, so I'm really excited because I would post the draft I have and I'd be able to get input from readers that way. And then I'd be posting every Tuesday and Thursday. And I have like my tiers. It's only 2 tiers. And then, you know, end of October, the book will no longer be available there. And like, that'll be stated at the very beginning. Right. Okay. And so, yeah, then it would just get pulled off there because it's going on to KU. And I could like dip my toe into like what this looks like and give it a shot. So I'm excited. I also really like the like author to author support that's built into Ream because it is a new subscription program. They are doing a good job of like helping with like author crossover.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it is very interesting. Yeah, I'm kind of like just stepping into it as like, this is something that's different and challenging to me, and I'm going to do it. I have a new little rule for myself to do something that makes me uncomfortable with writing, like my writing business, at least once a week.
Once a week? Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So like, but like that can be a varying degree, right? Like, so this Ream would definitely be one of them, right? Okay. And then maybe it's calling a indie bookstore and seeing if I can do a reading there or like celebrate my release there. Or maybe it's getting a hold of my local Barnes & Noble and being like, hey, will you put my books on your shelf? Right? Yeah.
I mean, you can also say that to indie bookstores too. You could be like, Absolutely. Hey, are you going to stock my book?
And so it's just one thing a week. And like, I'm really gearing this towards like not only getting used to being uncomfortable, but also like moving that comfort zone back, like getting it bigger. Right?
All right.
So that's my challenge to myself right now.
I like that. I think that's nice.
Ooh, one of the things is also making my Etsy store.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, is making your Etsy on the
list? Yeah, it's on there. Yeah, it's on the list. So...
I think we've kind of we've hit a bunch of snacky little thoughts.
Snacks
episode.
Yes.
It's just like a bunch of independent thoughts just kind of bouqueted together.
Yeah.
And making you think they're a cohesive thing when they're not.
I mean, hopefully they made you think they were a cohesive thing. Hopefully listeners not like, where are these bitches going? Like...
No, they 100% they are.
Okay, cool. At least in the editing process, they'll make sense.
There's no way. No, I'm just gonna leave it as is.
I'm just gonna launch it into the world. Kate, do you want to give a piece of writing advice?
I think I want to stick with that. Not every thing needs to be shown. You really just want to like show, like when you're really focusing on showing it, you want it to be the important things and not the things that, this isn't really going to impact the plot, you know?
Yeah.
Or it's the character growth or anything.
It's like creating false, like, Chachowski's guns. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're...
Please say his name correctly.
Why didn't this pan out? And it's like, well, what was that about? Like, why did you spend all this time showing us this thing? And then not, like, come back to it at all.
Will you say his name correctly?
Oh, Chekhov's gun.
Chekhov's gun, yes.
Yeah, it's Chekhov, not Tchaikovsky.
Yeah. I don't know, something Russian.
Cannon.
He used a cannon. Yeah, no, I like that. I guess I've already given my piece of writing advice too, because it would be like, put yourself out of your comfort zone. It's okay to be comfortable there.
Just kind of like prematurely threw those out there. Could have been to them, and it would have fit in the episode perfectly.
And I don't know, they are the things that I'm like, it is the thing I'm working on. And that's what this little end of episode is supposed to be, right? So, yeah. Kate, where can they find you?
I'm from New Jersey, baby, and you're not. I can't get enough of that soundbite.
That's amazing. Is it all over your FYP?
Oh my god, it's constantly. It's a bunch of people not pumping their own gas. And
that is the funniest shit. Oh my gosh, that
honestly,
one time.
Proud to live here.
I'm so glad you feel that way. But there was one time in our Discord, you were like, how do I get the rest of the states to get on this, like, having an attendant pump your gas? And I was like, you want me to have someone else pump my gas? Like,
yeah, it creates jobs.
You know what?
It's good for the economy.
It's good for the economy. That's hilarious.
It's so good. It's so nice. You feel like a princess.
This is me living my best life.
And I did it myself like 90% of the way. And then Austin was like, you fucked up a little bit. I was like, God damn it.
How did you fuck up pumping your gas?
Oh, I think I spilled a little on the ground for whatever reason. I'm like,
that's not even fucking it up. That's gravity. Like, sometimes these things happen.
She's just there. You just gotta
it's okay.
Accept gravity for what it is.
Exactly. If it gets on my car, I'll grab like the windshield washer thing and I'll get my car. So it's not gonna erode my car. That's it.
Oh.
Yeah. That is the funniest shit to me, that you want someone to pump my gas for me. I cannot tell you.
I would like you to experience true
luxury. It offends me on such a basic level. My, like, Midwestern salt of the earthness is like, excuse me, no. Like, I do my own work. Yeah, I don't know how I would experience, like, I don't know how I would, like, I would be the most awkward human in that moment. Like, oh, excuse me, thank you. Yeah, no, thank you, perfect. Do I tip? I don't, like, I would be so weird.
Do I tip?
I don't know what to do. Do I tip, Kate? Do you tip?
You can. You don't have to.
So they do earn, like, a wage. It's not like the service industry.
It's not like waitressing.
Oh my gosh. I'm so stressed. At this concept. Anyway, I'm glad that you have your FYP.
I mean, like,
she's from New Jersey.
Tip them on holidays.
That makes so
like
much
if
sense.
It's Christmas, you know?
Yeah.
You want to be nice. You want to do something nice.
That is so funny to me. You feel like a princess. I can see how that could be true. Anyway, Kate, where can they actually find you? Because they shouldn't just drive around New Jersey having gas pumped for them.
That you can actually find me at kate-pryor.com. I have a newsletter there. It lists all my books, all my links to everything.
Whoop, whoop.
And it's a good way to keep up with what I'm doing. But a better way is actually Instagram, and Threads, and ostensibly TikTok. I'm at I'm at by Kate Pryor.
I am at martyv.com. You can sign up for my newsletter. Yep, books are there.
Yep, books are there.
Yep, they're there. Oh, that reminds me, I have to put Accidentally Under Your Tree up there. Okay.
Ooh.
Cool.
Can't wait for this to come out.
Cannot wait. I have some ideas for how I'm going to like hit it better, and I'm so excited. Like, even just my ideas are like, that is an improvement. So anyway, editing is my favorite. You can find me at martyv.com. Sign up for my newsletter. Fun stuff. And then you can find me on Instagram and kind of sort of TikTok at Marty the Author. And I don't know, should I start a Threads? I don't know. What do I do? Oh, you're going to be able to find me on Ream soon. Like September 1st is like when I'm doing the big, maybe next week. Cause I should. Yeah. Anyway, you don't need to hear all my thoughts and my weird, anxious rambling. But yeah. So listener, that's me. That's Kate. Your listener. Thank you for being here.
Bye.
We love you. Bye.